Okay, so Yachimo, greetings, Yerase. We thank you for joining us once again. Day 3 of our 7-day Obradwira observance. So we have people on Instagram. We're gonna have some people coming in for the next couple of minutes. It's 9:03, so we'll get started around 9:05. We did post day 1 and day 2 on our YouTube page. So if you go to our YouTube page, YouTube, oh-jee on YouTube, you'll see that. So you'll see the first broadcast we did on September 11th, where we were talking about the structure of the holiday in general. And then we also have day number 1 and day number 2. So all of that is posted. And just give me one more minute. We're just going to let a couple more people get in, and then we're going to get started. For those of you who are joining us on Instagram, the live stream will be up for a few minutes. You can go to our most recent post, even in our story, and you will see the link to the Zoom link. So you can follow the entire broadcast with the documents and everything that we're going to be showing. So we just have Instagram up right now to let people know that we are live on Zoom, but the Zoom link is there. It's a free link. You'll see the link, the meeting ID, as well as the passcode. You can join that now, so you can join in the Zoom discussion. But we will log off of Instagram in a few minutes and continue on Zoom. And for those who just joined, we were saying that day number 1 and day number 2 are posted on our YouTube page, the oh-jee page on YouTube. So you can go to that and you can see the videos from Miminidas Saturday night and Awusida Sunday night, parts 1 and part 2. Okay, so once again, Yedase, we thank everybody for joining in. This is day number 3 of our Obradwira Nananomsom, which is a life purification ancestral observance, our 7-day Akan New Year in North America. And of course, as we said before, we calibrate our new year to the Atemet equinox, the autumn equinox, the balancing point of the year, 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of darkness. The earth is on the intersection of the celestial equator and the ecliptic, and therefore it is a balancing point of the year. It is the harvest time, but it's also the seeding time. We harvest the fruits of our labor and consume and fortify ourselves and so forth, and strengthen ourselves, edify ourselves and so forth. But we also take the seeds from the harvest and plant it. That planting is a conception, and the conception is the beginning of life. Conception first, then germination, rooting, eventually sprouting, full flowering, and harvesting. But the harvest time is also the seeding time, and that is the time of the year, which is the autumn equinox. Atem, Atemet, the male force, Atem, the deity Atem, and the female divinity Atemet, who govern that cycle, and we start at that time. So this is the 3rd day of our 7-day observance. And as we will go to our Wabujida page. And for those who have been following along, you will see that, click over here, each one of the 7 days of the week is governed by one of the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies. And let's just show that page real quick for the people. And once again, those who have joined us on Instagram, look on our most recent post, the going live post, and you will see the Zoom link. You can get on the Zoom link. The meeting ID is there. The passcode is there because you want to join the Zoom link. We're going to shut down the Instagram live feed, and we're going to go straight and remain on Zoom so you can see all of the images and everything we're talking about. Okay, so what we are showing now is the Akradin boson, the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies that govern the 7-day week, which includes that circa septon cycle, the natural chrono-biological cycle within our bodies, is in alignment with the natural 7-day cycle, the movements and positions of the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies every 7 days. And there are spiritual forces that animate the sun, animate the moon, animate the various oh-jee Nsoroma, the Akan term for planets, the wandering stars, and so forth, the oh-jee Nsoroma, the spiritual forces that animate the sun, moon, and planets, and so forth, also govern this 7-day cycle and all natural cycles on Earth and within our bodies. So we have a 7-day cycle. Of course, that's throughout the course of the year and so forth, but this particular 7-day set is a sacred time frame. Each one of the divinities gives their energy, lends their energy to the specific day of the week and the solar, lunar, and planetary body they govern, and it colors the activities for that specific day. So today is Joda, which is the Akan term for Monday or Moon Day. Ajo means cool or to cool, and also to be at rest and peace and so forth. Coolness, it represents coolness, continuity, receptivity, and so forth. It's descriptive of the moon. Joda is Monday, and the male force and female force that animate the moon are Sar and Set in ancient Kemet. They are called Ajo and Adjua in Akan when they operate through the moon, when they possess the moon and transmit their divine living energy through the moon, and that lunar magnetic energy bathes Earth, and it has a direct impact on the rising and falling of the tides and so forth, but it also has a direct impact on the rising and falling of the tides within our bodies. We're 70+% water, just like the Earth is 70+% water. So when there's an increase in the tides or you're retaining more water, then you're more internalized and introspective and contemplative and so forth. When you have less water, you don't retain as much because you burned up and so forth. You're more fired up, you're more externalized, more aggressive, more, vigorous and so forth. So, hold on 1 second. I want to let these people in. Okay. So, when Asar and Set, who are called Ajo and Adjua and Akan, are possessing the moon and transmitting the divine living energy through that lunar orb, and it bathes Earth and so forth. It affects Earth as well as plant life, animal life, mineral life, as well as Afuraitkait, or African Black human life. So today is Joda, and there are certain sets of activities we deal with on Joda or the moon's day. Now, so we showed this chart before. Let's show it real quick. The 7 days of the week, the deities that govern the 7 days of the week, 7 days of the week, male and female divinities, there are 11 of them. They govern the 7 days of the week, the solar, lunar, planetary bodies, as well as the 11 major body systems that govern us. Now, let's get back to our oh-jee page. As we mentioned the past couple of days, each one of these 7 days revolves around a specific ebe, which is the Akan term for proverb, divine ancestral wisdom teaching, and it carries the energy of the day. On Memenida, or Saturday, we talked about Sankofa Jirada and the proverb. Just to recap, as you can see here, Sankofa Jira Subain Afurakanu Afuraitkait, meaning the process of Sankofa purifies the character of Afuraitkait people. We talked about how important that is for us in general, but specifically our people here in the Western Hemisphere, to purify our character through the agency of Sankofa, returning, san, ko, going, fa, and grasping from our ancestral past, that reservoir of 1 million generations of earthly experience. We have that reservoir of experience to draw from so we can address any issue that arises within the clan and within the nation, the Afuraitkait nation, effectively. So we talked about that. Yesterday was Awusida Sunday, Esida, and we talked about Kradin Ye Nyame Wa Nyame Ocheame, meaning your soul name. the name that's connected to the divinity that governs your head, that carries the energetic formulation that allows you and pushes you to align with your divine function. Every time you hear that certain specific configuration of sound vibrations that make up your true name, that set of sound vibrations, when it's spoken, when it's heard, or even when it's contemplated, generates the energetic force that pushes you to realign your thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order, specifically through the agency of your divine function. What kind of cell within the great divine body are you? Are you an immune system cell within the great divine body of creation? You have a natural inclination towards seeking out cancerous cells within the communal body, isolating them and destroying them. So you may be engaged in policing functions and military functions and so forth. You have a natural inclination towards that. If you are a cell within the great divine body of the Supreme Being, that's a renal system cell, like the divinity Aakhuamuman, who governs the renal system, the kidneys and the ureters and bladder and so forth, the fluid balancing system in the body, the mineral balancing system in the body, then you have a natural inclination towards balancing those minerals, not just in your physical body, but in the communal body. So you're a healeress, healeress, and so forth. You have a natural inclination to deal with plant life and mineral life and to procure medicine from plant life and mineral life, as well as animal life and so forth, as well as human life, as far as Afuraitkait people and our energetic projections, how to utilize those energetic projections and unique configuration of energy to heal ourselves. You have a natural inclination to engage in that process. So whatever cell within the great divine body you are, your function reflects that. Your divine purpose in life reflects that. Our names are reflections of that divine function. If you have an authentic name, that set of sound vibrations stimulates your spirit and pushes your spirit to realign your thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. If you have a name that's not reflective of that, it's a set of discordant vibrations, and every time you seek to ingest it spiritually, identify with it, it's like ingesting poison. So that was the Ebe or proverb for yesterday. We went into detail about that. So today, and once again, as we mentioned the first session, we gather around sunset, just like this is the sunset time of the year, the autumn equinox. We gather each day on the 7 days of the week around sunset. Here on the East Coast, that's around between 7:15 and 7:30 and so forth. We convene around 7:15, 7:30 around sunset. We go to the shrine, the Nkomre, the shrine of the Nananomsom, the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors, the shrine of the Abosom, the deities, the divine forces in creation and so forth. And then we invoke the divinities and evoke the Nananomsom through ritual practice, depending on the day of the week. And then once we invoke the deities and evoke our spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors, then we go over the principle of the day and how it was reflected by our ancestresses and ancestors effectively, how we have implemented that wisdom in the past year cycle, and how we will implement that in the coming year cycle. But we have to understand the cosmological foundation for these principles as well and how they apply to our lives. So, and of course, even though we focus on these at this time of the year and ritualize the remembrance of these things, but these 7 principal values, these 7 mbe or proverbs, ancestral wisdom teachings and so forth, every single day of the week, as you go throughout the entire year, each one of these are relevant to the different days of the week and carry the energy of the divinity that governs the day. So we are guided by these principles every single day of the week. So, and what we're going to do right now, we're gonna log off on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram right now, go to the most recent post, the post that says, going live at 9 p.m. You will see the link, the Zoom link, the meeting ID, the passcode, and so forth, and you can join us on Zoom right now. We're about to start to show the various documents and details and so forth, so you need to get on that. So just go to our page and you'll see the information. We also posted that link in our story. So if you go to the story, you will see the link highlighted in blue and so forth for Zoom, and you can click on that. Okay. Okay, I just want to post this up real quick on Instagram for the people to see. Just give me 1 second. All right. Oh. Okay. All right. So as you can see, the ebe or proverb is wotumi fra mboja nanso wo ntumi mfra okra. So wo means you, tumi means power, and it also means can, and what you can do and what can be accomplished and so forth. Fra means to mix, moja means blood. So wo tumi fra moja. You, wo tumi, have the power to or can, fra, mix, moja, blood, nanso, which means however, wo, which means you, tumi, cannot, fra, not mix, when you put the in front. So tumi means power, but it also in this context means you can, you have the power to, or you can, tumi. But tumi means you, meaning non, you cannot. So can and cannot, that's like saying tumi and tumi, the power to do something, but not having the power to do something. So wo tumi. So first it was wo tumi. You have the power to, or you can mix blood. But then it says wo tumi, you cannot, or you do not have the power, fra, not mix, you cannot mix okra, the soul. The blood may be mixed, but the divine soul cannot be mixed. That's a common knowledge with regard to ancestral religious practice and culture. It is very important that we understand that here in North America. As we said before, we've been taught that we can never find out who we are because we've been mixed up on the boats and plantations. We'll never know who we are. That's always been fraud. When you know what your actual spirit-genetic identity, meaning you reincarnating through specific ancestral clans, intergenerationally, and transcarnationally through successive reincarnations, you know the nature of your spirit. You're the same spirit returning generation after generation. Or maybe after 100 years, 150 years, and so forth, you come back through your spirit-genetic clan. So, and that goes into cosmologically what our function in the world is. Very often when people talk about reincarnation, they have the ideas that are coming from Hindus and Buddhists and those Europeans, Indo-Aryans, and so forth in the East, and they have misinformation. Or they get misinformation from pseudo-white occultists, pseudo-white metaphysicists, and so forth, full of nonsense. When people say things like, we keep returning to Earth until we fulfill our function, and then once we fulfill our function, we don't have to come back to Earth anymore. We've completed that test. That's foolishness. That's never been true. They teach that foolishness in Hinduism. They teach that in Buddhism. They are seeking to escape the cycle of reincarnation because they think all human life is suffering, as it says in Buddhism, or you're trying to escape the flesh, trying to get to nirvana, trying to get to the, quote unquote, enlightenment and so forth. They're trying to escape the world and go somewhere to in eternity, to get away from reincarnating. To them, being in the world is inferior or negative or something that you don't want to have to go through. In the West, their Western brothers and sisters, their Western crackers, brothers and sisters, in the West, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and so forth, they don't deal with reincarnation, but they have the same concept. They're trying to escape the quote unquote sinful flesh, being worldly, all this other nonsense. The word worldly, meaning something negative and sinful and lustful and so forth. Only white people associate the world with something negative. In reality, the earth mother, Asase Afur, the fertile earth mother, and Asaseya, the barren earth mother, these are deities. They are divine. They are our mothers. These twin divinities are our mothers as Afuraitkait people and Afuraitkait people only, African Black people only. It is a privilege to be on earth, to operate within the womb of Asase Afur, within a deity, a divinity. So it's not a jail or a prison to reincarnate. It's a prison to be reincarnated in melanin recessive, perverse flesh. For them, reincarnation is a prison. For them, the world is a prison because they can't live in harmony with the world because they're melanin recessive on one hand, and then spiritually, which is most important, they are spiritually discordant. They do not have a kra, Aakhuamuman, an ori inu, a soul, a divine consciousness. They don't have that divinity within them. So they are like the cancerous cells, literally the cancerous cells within the body of Black humanity. It's like cancer cells in your body. They don't have a natural space. The immune system is isolating those cancerous cells to kill them and expel them from the body. These are cancerous cells, the whites and their offspring. White Asians, white Europeans, white Hindus, white Arabs, white Hispanics, white Americans, non-Black individuals, wherever they exist on the world, in the world, are the spirits of disorder. That's how they incarnate. That's their nature. They do not have a soul, a divine consciousness, meaning a deity in the head region. So they have no function in the world. So the world for them is a prison. The world for them is something to escape. The world for them is quote unquote sinful of flesh and all this other stuff. But of course, they are the authors and authoresses of operating within lust, disorder, malice, perversity. That is their ill culture. Has nothing to do with us. So it's a privilege for us to come to Asase Afur, the fertile earth mother, and operate within her realm. And it's a divine function. And we're sent into the world by Nyamewa, Nyame, or Aminet Amen for that purpose. So that's a sacred mission or operation. It's not a sentence. So that's how some of the foolishness of white pseudo-fake religion infects ancestral traditions. So you hear some people in the Yoruba tradition, the Orisha tradition, or the Akan tradition, or the Vodun tradition, or the tradition of ancient Khanit and Kamit, talking about once we fulfill our function and reach, divine wisdom, we don't have to come back to earth. Pure foolishness, total misinformation. So we need to understand the nature of what we call dwra, or reincarnation, in our traditions. So this speaks directly to them. The blood may be mixed, but the soul cannot be mixed. Now, what's important is today is Joda Monday, but during this 7-day observance, Monday is called Nyinsane Kron Kron Da. Nyinsane means pregnancy, and Kron Kron means sacred, and Da means day. So Nyinsane Kron Kron is the sacred pregnancy. Of course, it's associated with Joda, Monday, Aset, Odwira, the great mother, governing the womb and birth canal and so forth, giving birth to Heru and so forth, but the sacred pregnancy. So let's look at why we have that information and how it's related to the principle of the day and how we can incorporate that. Okay, so first, in one of our 31 books, this book is called Nyokonton, Ra, and Ra'et. And in this particular book, we are showing that Ra, the creator of the universe, and Ra'et, the creatress of the universe, are called Nyokonpon and Nyokonton in the Akan tradition. Nyokonpon means the circular serpent, the great circular serpent, And the Yonkonton means the great arched serpent and so forth. That is, of course, you see the circular serpent on the head, and you'll also find that the way the name is spelled, the serpent encircling the sun, and that's the rainbow serpent around the sun and so forth. These are their titles in the Akan tradition. And we were proving that not only linguistically, but cosmologically. So that's the reason we wrote this book. But we have some additional information in here that's relevant to what we're talking about. We mentioned, by the way, that Amen is the great God. He's called Amen becomes Nyame, as we talked about last night. Nyame in Akan. Ra, the creator of the universe, is in Yonkumpon in Akan. Pata or Puta becomes Boada or Boadie in Akan. And Atem or Atum becomes Odumankoma in Akan. These are 4 different deities. You have the female counterparts of Amen, which is Amenet. Ra. Ra'et is the wife of Ra. He's her husband. Sekhmet or Sechima is the female counterpart of Ptah. You have Ptah, Sekhmet, and Nefertim, that triad, and so forth. And then you have Atem, and the female divinity is Atemet, which we talked about in the first week. But once again, this is Amen and Amenet together, the great mother and great father together. That's Inyamewa and Inyame. In Yoruba, that's Olorun, the owner of heaven, and Olokun, the owner of the deep, and so forth. That's Olisa and Mawu in the Vodun tradition, and so forth. Now, yesterday we talked about the Sankofa, or yesterday and the day before we talked about the Sankofa Adinkra symbol in Akan culture. That's very, very popular symbol. There are many Adinkra symbols in Akan culture. And let's just pull up Adinkra symbols just so you can see if you've never, seen them before. So you'll see these various symbols. There are hundreds of Adinkra symbols. They all have their own specific names. All right. They have their own specific names. They have proverbs associated with them, divine wisdom teachings associated with them. Many of these root symbols you will find as medutu, hieroglyphs in ancient Kemet. This is where they're derived from and so forth. So you'll find many of these symbols in the medutu. I think the corpus includes that, and they have the same cosmological structure and function in our Akan culture that they do in ancient Khanit and Kamit, because we brought them across. And we proved that with regard to Sankofa the other night. So there are many Adinkra symbols. And then let's also look at the Akan gold weights real quick. You may have seen images of Akan gold weights. And these are little brass figures that are used to weigh gold dust. So in the past, the currency in Akan culture was gold dust. And the way we would pay for things and purchase things and so forth that people would purchase from us, the entrepreneur would have a little scale. They would have the gold dust and so forth. So if you say 1 gram of gold dust is how much it costs to purchase a certain thing, then you will get some gold dust, put it in one pan of the scale, and then you will get a 1 gram weight to make sure it's, it balances out. So if this weight is 1 gram, then you need to put enough gold dust where it balances out. Okay, that's 1 gram of gold dust. This is how much it costs. If something costs 2 grams of gold dust, 3 grams, or 4 grams, then you have a weight that's 1 gram, a weight that's 2 grams, a weight that's 3 grams, 4 grams, and so forth. What we began to do, instead of just having like a little brass, cube that's 1 gram, another brass cube that's 2 grams, another brass cube that's 3 grams, and so forth, and we're just using these, this terminology. We have our own terminology to talk about, weight and measurement, but just so you can understand, if you have a brass cube that's, different weights, 1 gram, 2 grams, 3 grams, 4 grams. At some point, we started, instead of making them simple brass cubes or circles and so forth, we began to structure them in the form of the Adinkra symbols, and each one of the gold weights, instead of just having a cube that was, say, 2 grams, we would make the cube in the form of the Akhuabada. And of course, that's Akhuaba. And of course, that's the female divinity that governs Akuada, which is Wednesday. And she's this Nebuchadnezzar in ancient Kemet and so forth. She's the wet nurse of Heru. She's the one that governs the renal system in creation and the renal system in your body and so forth. Has to do with fertility and all of that. So when you see that symbol, the proverbial wisdom associated with her, the entire cosmology that undergirds her function in creation and so forth, all of that comes to you when you see that symbol. So instead of having just simple cubes that represented different weights, we started using different Adinkra symbols, made them in the brass form and so forth. And that entire corpus, there are hundreds of Adinkra symbols, there are hundreds of brass weights. And when you have an entire pouch, which is called a ja, a pouch of these different brass weights, some represent our animals, some are plant life, some are mineral life, some are human beings in different forms and so forth, and different activities and so forth. It governs the entire span and spectrum of all possible activities in creation. So therefore, that pouch of gold weights, which we call Abramu, is in a form of divination. You take one of them out and so forth. The Unsamanfo are showing you that particular principle that governs this aspect of creation and certain aspects of human activity, meaning Afuraitkait activity. You need to focus on that particular aspect of creation and what divinities govern that and what ancestresses and ancestors govern that. So it became a divinatory piece beyond just the mundane usage of weighing gold dust. So that's just to give you a snapshot. So let's go back to the book. So one of those gold weights that includes an Adinkra symbol we find in our book here. And in this particular book, we go into the cosmology, how Ra and Ra'et are the son and daughter of Nun and Nanet, the divine energy in creation, and they are grandchildren of Amen and Amenet. So the creator and creatress are the grandchildren, not the children, but the grandchildren of the Supreme Being. So we talked about yesterday your life force energy that you direct to your arms, direct to your legs, direct to your reproductive organs, direct to your head and so forth. You are the great being. Like a male, you are like an emanation of Amen, and you direct your raw force, your life force energy to go out and create. As a woman, you are an emanation of Amenet, the great mother, the great being, and you direct your Ra'et force, that golden, fiery, luminous force circulating throughout your being. You direct that force to go out and create your Ra'et force. So you, the great being, Amen, Amenet, are directing Ra and Ra'et to go out and create. The Supreme Being directs the creator and creatress. The whites and our offspring don't understand that. And then many of our people who claim to be studying ancient Kemet or our priests and priestesses, they will tell you Ra and Amen and Ptah, just all names of the same force, which is nonsense. So now we went into some linguistics. We talked about the hieroglyph of the circle around the dot that comes from this natural formation of the circular rainbow around the sun. And we also have the circular rainbow around the moon and so forth. That is the original hieroglyph of the serpent around the sun, the solar disk and so forth. So you have the circular serpent as well as the arch serpent, the rainbow serpent, dual rainbows and so forth. We understand that in Fon, Vodun, the rainbow serpents, Da and Aidahuedo, the creator and creatress of the world, but Da in Vodun is Ra in ancient Kemet, the rainbow serpent who's the creator of the world, and Aidahuedo in Vodun is Ra'et in ancient Kemet, 3,500 coils in the sky, 3,500 coils in the sea and so forth. That's the 3.5 coils of the serpent, Kundalini serpent at the base of the spine, 3.5 is where they get that from. We've been talking about this for thousands of years. But the rainbow serpent, the creator and creatress, in Vodun is the same rainbow serpent in Akan, in Yonkumpon, and in Yonkunton. the great circular serpents, and so forth. And the same in Yoruba, Oshumare, the circular serpent, the rainbow serpent, and Odumare, the rainbow serpent, the male and female rainbow serpents who are the creator and creatress of the world, and so forth. Same thing. So when we look at the rainbow, you see that. Let's go back up real quick. In school, you were taught that the different colors are broken up. You shine light, white light through a prism, and then it breaks the white light up into a band of colors and so forth. Naturally, when it's raining, the rain itself acts as that prism. And when white light of the sun and so forth shines through or is refracted by rain or mist, then it's broken up into a band of colors, and that's the rainbow and so forth. So all the various colors and so forth operate within the white light. And the white light is born of the black substance. That white fiery light of the solar disk and so forth is the divine living energy of Ra and Riot, and within them, the creator and creatress, all of the different frequencies and waves and rates of vibration that manifest as different colors that create the universe come out of that white light of Ra and Riot, the creator and creatress. But let's move down real quick, just so you can see the serpent swallowing its tail over the head and around the foot and so forth. That's the serpent in the heavens and the serpent on earth and so forth, just like in Vodun, but this is in ancient Kemet. So we made those connections just to show that we've been dealing with the same culture, and every culture that's Afurakani, African Black, where we exist in the world, we have the same proper understanding. So, but what we wanted to get to, there's a specific, we were talking about the arch and the tone and so forth, and we wanted to bring out, this is an Adinkra symbol here. You see the crescent and the circle, and the crescent and the line. That particular symbol is called Nyinseng Krong Krong. It means the pregnancy in Nyinseng, that is Krong Krong, that is sacred, the sacred pregnancy. That's Nyinseng Krong Krong. The circle references the male principle. The crescent references the female principle. And then the line represents that union of the male and female principle, that's birth, which is the child. So we were talking about that. We were talking about that in the context of the arches and everything, and in the symbolism of Inyokumpon and Inyokuntone and so forth, and their names and all of that in ancient Kemet. But I just wanted to show you that particular symbol. That's the actual gold weight as well. That's a brass gold weight in the form of the Nyinseng Krong Krong symbol. Sometimes they would just draw the symbol on the wall of a temple or on clothing and so forth, and it's in that shape. But that's an actual brass piece that's in the form of the Nyinseng Krong Krong, the union of man, woman, and child, the sacred pregnancy. Now, since we're talking about the sacred pregnancy, let's go back real quick. So the blood may be mixed, but the divine soul cannot be mixed. Now let's show something in regard to that. This is our book, Aakhuamuman, and we're talking about this volume 1. We're talking about the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies that govern the 7-day week. But in the beginning of the book, in order to talk about the Aakhuamuman, we must talk about how we come into the world, why these deities govern our spiritual head. And there's one particular section that we want to look at that's germane to today's ebe or proverb. And of course, as we've mentioned on multiple occasions, Nyamewa, Nyame, or Amenet and Amen are the great mother and great father who comprise the two divine halves that make the divine whole, the supreme being. And we are cells within the great divine body of the supreme being. So your cells when they serve their parent organ or structure, like a liver cell serves its parent organ, the liver, when it does that, then it's serving you, the great being. When your heart cell serves heart functions harmoniously, then it's serving you, the great being. When your pancreas cells execute pancreas functions, their immediate parent, the pancreas gland and so forth, they're serving you, the supreme being. We are the cells within the great divine body of the supreme being. The organs within the great divine body of the supreme being that regulate order in the body, just like your heart, liver, spleen, lungs and so forth, brain, regulate order in your great body. They are smaller bodies within your great body. They are the powers within your body that are regulating order within your body. The organs within the great divine body of Amen and Amenet, the great mother and father of the universe and so forth, are the Abosom. That's Akan, the Orisha, Yoruba, the Vodou, Eve, and so forth, the deities, the goddesses and gods, Ntoru and Ntoru, the Neteru, Neteru, which is Ntoru, Ntoru, and so forth, the forces of nature. They are children of the great divine mother and father. They are literally the organs within the great divine body. And they, as organs, give birth to cells, which are us, plant life, animal life, mineral life, and Afuraitkait, human life. So we say Nyamewa and Nyame are the great divine body. That's akin to the human body, specifically the Afuraitkait body, the black body. The Abosom are the deities, but they're also organs. On the microcosmic level, the organs within our bodies and so forth. Nipa, human beings, are akin to cells within the human body. But then you have the Nsamafo and Asamando, the ancestral spirits and the ancestral realm. And that's akin to the fluid in the body, the water system in the body. So the water system in the body, most of the body, 70+% water and so forth. You have a cell, it dies, the water, that was in the cell rejoins the water that's within the body and so forth. And it's time for a new cell to be formed. A portion of the water system of the body, the fluid system of the body, goes into the formation of that cell, and then the cell is, that water is reborn into the new cell and so forth, and it serves its function. So the fluid system, intracellular fluid, interstitial fluid, cells and so forth, that is the ancestral realm. So you have the human body is like Amen and Amenet. The organs are the deities. The cells are plant life, animal life, mineral life, and Afuraitkait, human life. And when we as cells serve our parent organs, our parent deities, our parent Orisha, our parent Vodou, our parent Abosom, parent Ntoru, we're serving the great body, supreme being at the same time. So that structure governs everything we talk about. Now, we were talking about the soul yesterday, talked about these different things. In this section, and then in the next section, we talk about the incarnation of an individual. So, when someone transitions, when an elder or elderess transitions, or a younger person transitions and so forth, the spirit separates from the body. The body is interred, the body is buried and so forth. There's a ritual process that takes place to bury the body and also to assist the spirit in moving to the ancestral realm without being caught up, being depressed because they transitioned and they're no longer in the physical world and they're just an ancestral spirit now. Some of them will try to hang around the home or hang around the place they died or hang around the place they used to frequent and hang around for the next 100 years and harass people who walk by those spaces because they're not grounded. Spirits that are grounded, they move on to the ancestral realm. They live amongst the community of ancestresses and ancestors from their clans until it's time for them to be reincarnated. And then they leave the ancestral realm and they're drawn into the womb and are born once again into the world to live in the physical world amongst the physical family, the physical clan. When they transition again, they live amongst the ancestral or spiritual clan. Now, so when a person transitions and they are operating normally, they live amongst the ancestral community. And we say in the Akan tradition, if you want to know what Asamando, the ancestral realm, is like, then consider the dream state, the Adai state or the dream state. Because when you're dreaming, you're laying in a dark space, there's no sound, there's no light, there's no movement, but you're experiencing things, you're seeing other entities, you're hearing things, experiencing things, and so forth. If someone walked into the room, they wouldn't see anything that you're saying, but you're having experiences, but your eyes are closed. So where are all these luminous images coming from? Where's all this activity coming from? This is in the spirit realm. When someone transitions, their body is buried in a cold, dark space where there's no light, no sound, no movement, but their spirit begins to interact. So when you transition, and things are, normal, then you make your way to the ancestral community and you live amongst that community. We visit them in dreams. Sometimes they visit us in our dreams. Every dream is not an ancestral communication. Sometimes it's simply repressed memories and triggers and traumas that you've gone through, and then they manifest in different formations and symbolic, images and so forth, for you to focus on and so forth. But sometimes you do communicate with deceased relatives, elders, eldresses, younger people, and so forth. So sometimes we do communicate with them in that fashion, that's how they communicate. But then also during ritual, spirit possession, spirit communication, they communicate as well. So, but when it's time to return to the world, for us, for Afuraitkait people only, before we're drawn into the womb of one of our descendants, we're drawn up to Inyame wa Inyame, and they give us a divine function to execute in creation. And if they give us when they give us a divine function to execute in creation, then they assign us to a specific divinity that carries the energy that can execute that function. So we use the example here of, say, an ancestral spirit is living in the ancestral realm, and it's time for them to return to the world. They transitioned during the enslavement era. They were taken from the continent, forced into North America on enslavement, ship and so forth, a vessel. They were sold on a plantation. They're living on a plantation. They banded together with other Afuraitkait people, waged war against the white slave owner, killed him, killed his family, killed his wife, children, staff, escaped and established an independent sovereign settlement in Virginia, North Carolina, and Dismal Swamp and so forth, and lived in that area, eventually transitioned, but had children and grandchildren. Now, when they transition, he's an ancestor. He's a great ancestor, great warrior ancestor. His children pour libation to him. His grandchildren pour libation to him. They remember him. His great-grandchildren will be told about him because they didn't meet him. His great-great-grandchildren will be told about him, and they still pour libation and call his name. And he's watching generation after generation after generation. Just like while he was here, he watched his children grow up, his grandchildren grow up, then he transitioned before his great-grandchildren. So from the ancestral realm, he's watching them grow up, and his great-great-grandchildren and great-great-great and great-great-great-great and so forth. About 140 years later, it's time for him to return. His great-great-great-great-great-great granddaughter is grown up to a young woman, and she gets married and so forth. She copulates with her husband, and through that energy exchange, that force draws his spirit, that great ancestor, back into the womb once again for the first time in 140 years. Before the spirit is drawn into the womb, we're drawn up to Inyame wa Inyame. They give us a function to execute in the world. So once we come into the world, we carry an energetic signature where we'll be naturally inclined towards certain behaviors and functions. If the person was assigned to the deity Benna, as represented by this red circle, which is the planet Benna Mars, and let's just show real quick. In fact, instead of showing that, we're going to go to our page. Okay, somebody was saying they weren't seeing the images. You should be seeing the red circle, planet Mars on the page. If you're not seeing that, Let me know in the chat room if you were seeing that. Let me go back up. Okay, are you seeing that now? Or is there anybody who's not seeing that? Okay, you were seeing that? All right. Okay, so we're gonna go out. I wanna go back up to the, okay, so just to give you, so Wusi and Adjua, that's solar and lunar planet, solar and lunar bodies and so forth. Abina, which is Sekhmet, and Bena, which is Heru Bedeti, very often shown in the form of falcon, sometimes the body of a man, the head of a falcon, sometimes the falcon itself and so forth. That is Bena, the deity Bena in Akan, it's Heru Bedat, where we get the term Bena in Akan, it comes from Heru Bedat, sometimes pronounced Heru Bedet. The winged sun disk and so forth. He's called Ogun in Yoruba, and Ogu in Vodun, and Ikenga in Igbo, the same divinity, hot metal, war, fire, planet, Bena, so-called Mars. So this is the divinity. His shrine, his planetary shrine, where he projects his energy through and uses that planet to transmit his red, fiery energy to Earth. That's the shrine or transmitter of the divinity Bena. He possesses that planet. On Earth, the ionosphere or the thermosphere is the shrine of the deity Bena on the planet Earth. In our bodies, he governs the immune system. That's his shrine in our bodies. His shrine on Earth is the thermosphere or ionosphere. In the solar system, he operates through the planet Bena. In creation, he's the great divine immune system within the great divine body of Amenet and Amen. So we just wanted to show that. So, but we were saying say that you are assigned to this deity and he governs your head. And we just use his planet as a representation of that. So you're a spirit, you go before Inyamewa and Inyame, and they tell Bena, the deity Bena, Heru Bedeti, Heru Behudet, Ogun, Ogu, and so forth. They tell him, you're going to govern this individual when he goes into the world. You're going to infuse your energy into this individual's kra and so forth, spiritual head. So he is guided by you. You're going to send one of your children, Bena, to take up residence in the head region of this person. And so Bena, Ogun, Heru Bedeti, Ogu, Ikenga, sends one of his children, this miniature Bena, to go and take up residence in the head region of the person. And that becomes the person's personal divinity or soul. The soul, the Okra, Okrawa, is the deity, a male deity if you're male, a female divinity if you're female. That's a spiritual force that takes up residence in your head region that you communicate with throughout the course of your life. This child of Bena is called Kwa Bena, the servant of Bena. He's a child of Bena and carries Bena's energy, just like you carry your father's energy and so forth. But there's a spiritual force that comes from the great deity Bena. He's a miniature, quote unquote, Bena. He's a child of the great divinity Bena. He's a miniature, quote unquote, Mars and so forth. And he takes up residence in the head region. That force in your head right now, just like your physical brain directs every function in your body, in your spirit body, your spiritual force in your head region is your spirit's brain. It is a divinity. And he will communicate with you if you're male. She will communicate with you if you're female. That female force, if you're a woman, that sits in your head region, that mother spiritual force that's in your head region that directs you to what kind of thoughts, intentions, and actions are in harmony with divine order. And you feel that pull in your head towards the kinds of things you should be doing. And if you're trying to move in a direction where you shouldn't be moving, engaging in behavior you shouldn't be engaging in, that pull in your head will pull you in the other direction. And if you try to go against that pull and go in this direction, then you create disalignment from the deity that governs your head and your own actions, and then you run into all kinds of problems. So, but our goal is to align with that divine force in the head region, whether you're male or female. In this example, we're using the male deity Bena. One of his children takes up residence in the head region of that ancestral spirit. And let's look at a visual of that. you get a soul from the great soul, Khan Kayat. We talked about that yesterday. We said Khan Kayat is black substance of space, the soul, the divine consciousness of Inyamewa and Inyame, Aminet and Amen. And they send one of their children. You take carve a little black spear out of that black substance. That is a child of Khan Kayat. And that child of Khan Kayat becomes your own personal Ka, your soul, or Kayat. Takes up residence in your head region. That's your soul. But what's the difference between your little miniature soul and everybody else's soul that you come in contact with? Well, Inyamewa and Inyame said, well, your soul is going to be infused with and governed by the deity Benna. So what happens, Benna goes, infuses his energy into your soul, the divinity that governs your head. And that black circle, that black sphere becomes a red sphere. It's radiating with the energy of the deity Benna. It is a child of Benna, and that spiritual red, spiritual force takes up residence in the head region. So first, you were a spirit standing before Inyamewa Inyame, and then they directed Khan Kayat, the divinities of the divine consciousness, to send a force of consciousness to take up residence in your head region, to give you a spiritual brain. But that spiritual brain needs to be a particular kind of spiritual brain. Are you going to be a fiery individual? Are you going to be a healeress? Are you going to be an engineer? Are you going to be one who, is an administrator and so forth? What kind of soul or black sphere are you going to have? If you're a child of Benna, you're going to get infused with that red fiery energy. You're going to bring that fiery energy into the world. If, for example, you're a child of Ya, that's the planet Uranus. Ya, she is called Wajet in ancient Kemet. She's called Oya in Yoruba. She's called Avejida in Vodun. If you're a child of Oya or Ya, she's called in Akan or Wajet. Then that black sphere will be infused with that greenish, bluish green energy, and you would have that spiritual force radiant in your head region, and that female divinity, and you as a woman, you'll be governed by the divinity Ya. And your name will be Ya. So when you hear about Ya Asantewaa, the great warrioress, queen mother of the Asante people, she was governed by the deity Ya. Somebody born on, Fida, Friday, they're governed by Afi. We just had a rule, and they're called Afia or Afua and so forth. And this radiant, golden, radiant energy of the planet Afi or Venus is dwelling in the head region. So now that you're a spirit, you've been assigned a soul, a divinity, a male divinity if you're male, a female divinity if you're female. That radiant energy is dwelling in your head region, and then you're sent back into the ancestral realm to await reincarnation. And once your great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter copulates with a husband, and they generate that exchange of energy, they pull your spirit into the womb. And then you gestate for 40 weeks, and then you're born into the world. So, but you haven't been here in 140 years. You watched as your descendants moved through America and so forth and went to different states. Some of them may have fallen off track and copulated with a pseudo, Native American or Hispanic or whatever, or someone foolishly got with a European one time, but then everybody else after that, brought it back to Black. And by the time, generations passed, you had one white pollutant in the family, but everybody else was Black and so forth. And if you think about that, you have 2 parents, of course, then you have 4 grandparents, then you have 8 great-grandparents. People know their parents, they know their grandparents. Most people have met, 1 or 2, maybe 3 of their great-grandparents, but you have 8 great-grandparents, then you have 16 great-great-grandparents. Most people may have met at least one of their great-grandparents. The vast majority of people were not old enough, or their great-great-grandparents didn't live long enough for you to have met your great-great-grandparents who were born in the 1800s. My great-grandmother was born in 1899. I did meet her. She transitioned when I was 12 years old. So I knew her. But and one of the great-grandfathers. But most people never met their great-grandparents. Every now and then you have some people who, their great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents lived long enough in their 90s or 101, 102, and so forth, where you're able to meet them. But you have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents. Now, as an ancestral spirit, you're watching your descendants, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, and so forth, develop and have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. You're watching all of this develop. Notice that if you have 2 parents and you have, say that's 2 black circles. If you had a family tree, you have you, it's a black circle. Then above you are your mother and father, 2 black circles. So that's 2. You on the first level is 1, your mother and father is 2, that's 2 black circles. Then on the next level, 2 black circles for your father, 2 black circles for your mother. Those are your 4 grandparents. So you have 4 black circles up here. Then those 4 have their parents, which are your 8 black circles, 8 great-grandparents. And then on the next level, they have 2 parents, so you have 16 black circles, your great-great-grandparents. However, one of those great-grandparents copulated with the European, or say a pseudo-Native American, so forth. So you have 15 black circles and 1 quote-unquote reddish circle representing the pseudo-Native American. Notice how idiotic it is when the people in the family, the person on your level, you're the 1 circle and your parents are number 2, and then your grandparents are 4, your great-grandparents are 8 circles, and then the great-great-grandparents is 15 black circles and 1 red one. And then the person on the first level will say, hey, we're Cherokee. 1 red circle, 1 pollutant, you will skip over 15 black great-grandparents, all of those people and all of their descendants. You're none of them, but you're the 1 pollutant. That's insanity, that's self-hatred. What if one of the other grandparents was Akan, 1 was Yoruba, 1 was Basa, 1 was Fulani, 1 was, Wasa, 1 was from the Congo and so forth. You're none of those other 15 great-grandparents, but the 1 little red one, oh, we're Cherokee. That's our lineage. We're Cherokee people. That's insane. That's self-hatred, where you would reject 15 out of 16 just to go for the red circle because you want to be associated with somebody with straight hair and light skin. That's insanity. But that's what our people do. They will kick aside those 16, or on the next level where you have 32 great-great-great-grandparents, you'll have 31 black ones, 1 red one, and you'll say, hey, we're that. How come you're not number 31 or number 28 or number 17 or number 16? Self-hatred makes you skip over all 31 of those just so you can focus on the pollutant. Now, physiologically, when this ancestral spirit returns to the world and they come into the womb, they were an Akan warrior who lived in the Aakhuamuman Empire in the previous incarnation, 140 years ago. Brought over to North America, transitioned here. Over the past 140 years, they saw their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren copulate with other individuals, mainly Black people from other ethnic groups like Yoruba, and Igbo, and Fang, and Ovambo, and all these different groups. Periodically, somebody falls off track or gets violated, raped, and so forth, and they get polluted with, some non-Black individual, but most of the people, different ethnic groups and so forth. Sometimes they are within the Akan ethnic group. They marry somebody within the Akan ethnic group. They don't even know that because they lost knowledge of their culture. But you reincarnate, you are the exact same Akan, specifically Aakhuamuman Akan warrior from 140 years ago. You have now returned to the world. You are the exact same Aakhuamuman warrior today that you were 140 years ago. Your blood may be mixed, fra moja, nanso, however, wo tumi fra okra, your soul cannot be mixed. So you may come out a little bit lighter brown, as we said the other day, but that's just evidence that violence took place in the ancestral blood circle, or else you would be dark brown like you were 140 years ago. But because pollution took place in the ancestral blood circle, you're a little bit lighter brown than you would have been. However, you're still melanin dominant, so your physical vessel still can execute that divine function. The melanin won the physiological battle, or else you would be a melanin recessive cracker right now, which you are not. Most importantly, however, your spirit is the same spirit, connected to the same deity, connected to the same clans that you've been connected to for thousands of years. You came into the world, you're the exact same spirit. Your blood may be mixed, but your soul is not. You can communicate with your spirit-genetic ancestresses and ancestors who you just left from the ancestral realm to come into the physical world. You can ask them, hey, what is our clan? You can establish an ancestral shrine. Ask the men and women, the elders and eldresses that you were living with in the ancestral realm before you incarnated, what is our clan? If you forget, if you ask your mother growing up, because she's forgotten after 140 years, she doesn't know what your clan is, she just growing up as an African-American and American, so forth, and just thinks that, well, we're just Black people, we don't know who we are, we're just too mixed up, we can't figure it out. But you're the same spirit, so you can ask your ancestresses and ancestors, which are also her ancestresses and ancestors, who are we? And they will tell you, you're Aakhuamuman. You're from the Akan ethnic group, specifically the Aakhuamu. This is your name, this is your clan, this is your animal totem from your patriclan and matriclan and so forth. These are the deities that govern you. And of course, those deities will communicate with you from the time you're a child all the way through adulthood in various ways, and will reveal themselves in multiple ways. So that's important for us because our identity is spirit-genetic. It's spiritual and genetic. You are a spirit entering into a body. It's not this, I'm a divine being having a human experience. That's nonsense as well. That's reducing the human to, that's not important, it's inferior. Saying, well, I'm a divine being, I'm not just a human. I'm a divine being having a human experience. As if humanity or a human experience is inferior, so you want to be the higher thing. Once again, the whites and offspring, as quote unquote human beings, they know that they are inferior physiologically and spiritually to us. So they don't want to identify with being human because to them, human is inferior and they are inferior. So they want to pretend like, well, I'm divine and I'm just operating through this human experience, but I'm divine. They start putting these slogans out and then we start repeating that nonsense. We are human beings. Nipa and Akan means human beings. Human beings, and that only refers to Black people only. We're the only true, authentic human beings. Human beings have a function in creation. Plant life has a function in creation. Animal life has a function in creation. Mineral life has a function in creation. You don't say, well, I'm not going to be human, I'm divine. If you have self-hatred because you don't know who you are, you think being a human is inferior, then you want to be something better to make yourself feel better for your self-esteem, which is idiotic, then you'll say something like that. But if you know who you are, the value of Nipa, humanity, human being, beingness, then you don't have a problem with being exactly who you are. A human being that has a divine connection to the forces of nature, of course, but you are Nipa, a human being. So we must understand that the blood may be mixed, but the divine soul cannot be mixed. When we understand that, then we understand that when we see our children born and so forth, these are ancestresses and ancestral return. We also understand that when you see the whites and their offspring, white Europeans, white Americans, white Arabs, Hindus, and so forth, their deceased relatives, their perverted deceased relatives return as well. So when you see their children and they grew up and so forth, these are the same individuals who were enslavers, torturing our people in the past. Now they have returned. And then when you go to work and you're working for some white supervisor and you have this negative energy in between you, of course, you're going to have that negative energy just in general because they are a spirit of disorder by nature. But there's something particular about this one. It's because in a previous lifetime, this individual was the enslaver and they were torturing you on the plantation. Now both of you have returned around the same time and have crossed paths once again. That gives you an opportunity to exact vengeance against that enemy. So reincarnation allows you to see. It's never this situation of, oh, well, you know, our predecessors oppressed Black people, but we never did that. No, actually, it was you. It was them, literally. So now we have the opportunity to balance the scales. So they don't want us thinking like that, because then we won't have this notion of forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't exist in Afuraitkait culture. You reap what you sow, you harvest what you cultivate. There's no forgiveness in it. Forgiveness is a concept created by the whites and their offspring to enslave the minds of our people, to make us turn the other cheek and accept all of the abuse and not retaliate. Because if we retaliate, then they're out of control. So that is the principal value of today. That is the most important. We have to understand that our identity is spirit-genetic. So we talked about our collective Kradin yesterday, our collective soul name, which is Afuraka, Afuraitkait, Africa, and Afuraitkait, meaning we're children of Ra and Ra'et, the creator and creatress, Black people only. We're the only ones with the Ka, the soul, the divine consciousness. And as we're going to see later, we're the only ones with a Ba, the divine living energy, the spirit that comes from Ra, right, and so forth. So Asians don't have that. Pseudo-Native Americans don't have that. Hindus don't have that. Europeans, Arabs, white Hispanics, and so forth. Only Black people have that connection to the divinities, that we have a divinity operating with us. So, but that's what's key. So we know about our spiritual identity as children of the creator and creatress, Afuraitkait people. The spirit, Ra and Ra'et, the creative spirit, guided by a Ka, the soul or divine consciousness, operating within the Afu, the flesh. So Afuraka, Afuraitkait, this flesh, spirit, soul, and so forth. We are children of Ra and Ra'et, the creator and creatress. That's as a collective. But then we are born into a specific blood circle, a clan, over thousands of years and so forth. And we have specific characteristics, specific forms and functions and so forth, specific ways of operating within a communal setting and so forth. That has to do with blood circle, quote later, quote unquote DNA, but your blood circle, your spirit genetic blood circle. And then we incarnate through these specific clans. So that's what's key for us. All right. Okay, so if you have any questions, of course, you can post them in the chat room. You see, once again, this is the proverb here. And we didn't want to keep you long tonight. We really wanted to do each session, each day, about an hour or so. The first couple of days, we had to lay the foundation for what the observance is about, so it took a little bit longer and so forth. We wanted to keep each evening around an hour, including a question and answer. So, and just going over these proverbs of the day and so forth. So that's what we wanted to focus on today. And when you read the books, for example, this is the Akan Bosom book, volume 1. You will see, you know, what we were just summarizing here with regard to reincarnation. It goes into detail. That book goes into detail about that. And then also the Akan Bosom book, volume 2 is Awusi and Adwa talking about Al-Sard, Al-Set, operating through the sun and the moon and so forth. And in the second part of the book, since we were talking about Monday today, Joda, Monday and so forth, we start off talking about Adwa. Second. Operating through the moon as on Joda or Ajowada, Monday and so forth. And then we talk about Al-Sar operating through the moon as well. And he's called Ajo, and she's Ajowa when operating through the moon. he's Awusi or Asi, and she's Essi when they're operating through the sun on Sunday in harmony with Ra and Ra'et. But when they're operating through the moon, they are Ajo and Ajua, possessing the moon, spirit possession, and so forth. So you can read about that. The details about the cosmology of, Monday and the moon and the divinities and so forth, you'll see that, and we show the Akan tradition, the titles of the divinity in Akan tradition, praise names and all that. But then we show how they manifest in ancient Khanit and Kamit. And that's all set. And then we also show, for example, here you see Alsar, Alsar operating through the moon. It says Osiris, the moon, and so forth. He has the lunar disc on his head and so forth. That's when he's operating through the moon. So, and then the Ucha and Uchau is the Ajua and Ajo and so forth. That is how their names are spelled in ancient Khanit and Kamit, dealing with the moon and so forth. The right eye of Ra is the sun, the left eye is the moon, and you will see that here with the different fractions that make up the eye of Heru and so forth. That's the moon being broken up into pieces and all that. So you can read about the details of the cosmology associated with the moon in volume 2 of our book. But tonight we just wanted to focus on this guiding Ebe, ancestral wisdom tradition, proverb of this day of Joda, not just Monday during the 7-day week, but every day. These principles need to be understood every day, how they are applied every day. We make proper decisions when we know who we are, what our function in the world is, what clan we come from. We take on names associated with that clan that carry the energetic vibrations of our spiritual configuration. So every time we speak or think or hear and so forth, we're constantly realigning ourselves with divine order. Just like every time you get up in the morning and drink, spring water and put fruits and vegetables in your body that have the vitamins and nutrients necessary to empower you and give you the fuel to function in the world. Every time you hear or contemplate or speak your actual name, that set of sound vibrations reinvigorates you and realigns you with your divine function in the world so you don't get off track. And if you find yourself off track, you have ancestral religion to engage the ritual process to get back on track. So that's the Ebe of today. Tomorrow we're going to get into, which is Benada Tuesday. We'll get into the Ebe of Tuesday and so forth. But if you have any questions, of course, you can post them in the chat room. Okay. Okay, so there was a question in the Buzz translations when they mentioned Mehen, are they referring to the Ntoro Men, the deity Men? Okay, and that actually points to one of the divinities we showed in our book here. And you will find in the book of the dwra and so forth, you see this serpent swallowing its tail on top, this serpent swallowing its tail on the bottom. And sometimes you will see a serpent surrounding Ra as Afura as he's moving through the underworld in the form of the flat horn ram, or a wavy serpent surrounding the deceased body of Alsar and so forth. The male wavy serpent that's the protector of Afura is called Mehen, and the female divinity is Mehenet. So when you see that in those translations, that's talking about these male and female protective serpents of Ra and Ra'et. These protective deities are called Mehen and Mehenet, and they are servants of Ra and Ra'et. Okay, so a question about the Heru set principle. Let me pull up something real quick that we did. If you go to our YouTube channel, it's one of the Blog Talk radio broadcasts we did. So you see here the divinity Heru and Set, two heads coming out of the same body and so forth. But you also see here Heru on one side holding the plant of the north, and Set on the other side holding the plant of the south. And that's the semi-Tawi, or the union of the two lands in balance and harmony and so forth. So Heru and Set work in harmony together. Heru governs the cardiovascular system. So let's go out of this. So we did a whole hour plus broadcast on that, so you can listen to that, but just to summarize that. Okay, so you see Heru was called Yao, popularly called Yao in Akan. The planet Yao is Jupiter. He governs the cardiovascular system. That is his shrine in the body. Of course, the major organ is the heart. Set, called Awuku and Aku, and Awuku Anansi, or Kweku Anansi, and so forth, or Anansi Kokroko, the great Anansi, the great spider, and so forth, that weaves the web of Tumi and so forth, communicator. Planet Set, or Mercury, governs the nervous system. So the cardiovascular system, that's sending energy in the context of blood, it pumps the blood and so forth, and the blood carries the life force energy and so forth, so it's distributing blood and therefore life force energy to all the cells in the body. Then you have the nervous system that sends electric signals through the nervous structure, network, and so forth to communicate to the different organs and glands and systems in the body. So it's a system of communication. That life force energy moving through that web of energy, the World Wide Web, the nervous system generates an electromagnetic field. No different than if you take a wire and you wrap it around a nail, and then you put both ends of the wire to a battery and so forth. When the current begins to whip around in that circular fashion, it creates an electromagnet, and then the nail becomes magnetized and so forth. So when life force energy is moving through the nervous system, it generates that electromagnetic energy or field and so forth. So that's electromagnetic energy. And that electromagnetism affects our desire. Your desire for things that are in harmony with order is natural. If you're hot and sweating and you desire water, you have a magnetic draw for water to replenish the water that you lost, and you drink some cool water and so forth. That's a natural desire in alignment with divine order to replenish yourself. If your desire gets corrupted, you've been polluted with drugs or polluted with false ideas and so forth, and then you start having misguided desire, lusting after certain individuals or things or power or control or drugs or whatever it is. Now your desire has become misguided. It went from desire to being corrupted into lust, which is misguided desire. And your nervous system is trying to serve that misguided desire. On the other hand, the circulatory system is sending blood, which carries the life force energy. So it's sending fire through the system and so forth, that illuminate energy through the system. And it's nourishing and empowering and giving vitality and energy and so forth to the different cells and glands and organs and so forth in the body. So Heru, operating through the heart and cardiovascular system, is dealing with the will to align your thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. The nervous system is dealing with the desire to fulfill your function and support the will and so forth. But if your will to do what's in harmony with what's right gets in conflict with the desire to move in another direction, now the will and conflict are in desire. The will and desire are in conflict. They're going in different directions. And that creates disorder in your body and in your spirit. And what happens is you see this representation of the two heads on the body. And when you look at the text, they'll talk about one head has ma'at and the other head has isfet, or disorder and so forth, when they're going in different directions, operating within the same body and so forth, then there's discordance in the body. you have that discordance when the divinity in your head is pulling you in one direction to engage in certain activities, but then your misguided desire or lust is trying to make you say, no, we need to do this. No, we need to lust after this individual. No, we need to try to gain power in an illegal fashion, a self-destructive fashion. No, we need to consume drugs to pollute our system just so we can get a high. No, we need to do, lie and all this other stuff. It's pulling you in this direction, but your will is pulling you in this direction. You're being split apart. But when you realign your desire, your nervous system, with what's in harmony with divine order, then they function harmoniously together. And you see Heru and Set, the will and desire, the union of the two lands, they're working together to function harmoniously. So we go into detail about that in our book, Kukutuntum, the Ancestral Jurisdiction. Okay. Okay, let me show that picture real quick. We'll show that on the screen. Okay, in our book, Kukutuntum, the Ancestral Jurisdiction. And this year, by the way, this is the 20th anniversary of Kukutuntum. But that book you can download for free, as you can download all 31 of our books for free here on the Kukutuntum page. And you can download the audiobook version of it on YouTube so you can listen to the full. It came out as an audiobook first, the 3 CD set, and then we published the book as a transcript later, years later. But we go into detail about Heru and Set, will and desire, circulatory system, nervous system, the divine will, and so forth. Asar and Set, giving birth to Heru and Set, as well as Nebuchadnezzar. So we talk about that entire cosmology. Okay, so the only other thing is a couple of things that we want to mention. Coming up this weekend, this Sunday, Awusida Sunday, September 25th, our Obedimasem Afurakani Manhood course begins. 13-week course, meets every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, 10 to 11:30 and so forth. We'll be going over our book, Obedima Afurakani Manhood, also the Vatasa Tim book, which is an educational curriculum, and 14 of our other books. We have 31 books that we publish, but each week we'll be examining these principles and so forth so we can incorporate them in our lives and establish strong models of Obedimasem manhood for our community. So if you would like to register for that course, you can go to the Obedima page on our website and you can register for that course. 13-week course, September 25th to December 25th. That's one thing. And then going back to Kamit in May 23rd through the 31st, we're visiting 12 cities from northern Kamit all the way to southern Kamit and Khanit, Nubia. We just went this past May, and if you look on the page, you will see that we posted 13 different videos, as you can see here, with clips from, and images and everything from the trip and the various cities that we went to and so forth, and various tombs and temples and shrines and so forth that we visited. So if you would like to travel with us, and of course, open to Afuraitkait people only our people will travel with us on the study tour to Kamit. So you can reserve your spot with a deposit, and then we have payment plan options where you can pay monthly. You decide how much you're going to pay monthly. You just have to, the balance is due a month before the trip, like at the end of April, beginning of May and so forth. But you can decide how much you pay monthly. Some people will pay monthly for a few months, and then once their tax refund comes in, January, February, whatever, then they pay off the balance or pay much of the balance and so forth. So people do it different ways. There's also PayPal, pay later options or pay in full and all of that. There are different options to do that, but you can reserve your spot with a $300 deposit, and then you can make payments over time. But we do have some spaces left for that trip in May, so you can register for that. And also coming up very quickly, which is in a couple of months, 8 weeks, as a matter of fact, here in Washington, D.C., our first annual Conjure Film Festival. You visit DC, we will have vendors. We're going to be showcasing films, independent films in the Conjure genre, meaning the forms of ancestral religion that we preserve in our blood circles here in North America. Like the Hoodoo tradition, which is the Akan tradition in North America, the Voodoo tradition, which is the Ebe tradition, the Juju tradition, which is the Yoruba tradition, the Wanga tradition, which is the Ovambo tradition, the Gangan tradition, which is Fang, the Gola and Kisi tradition, which is the Gullah and Geechee tradition, and so forth. We maintained our ancestral religions intact here in North America, so we need to talk about how we maintain these traditions through context of film and so forth for hundreds of years here in North America after we were forced into this hemisphere. We are not dependent on traveling to the continent or the Caribbean or anywhere else to get our ancestral religion from somewhere. We maintained it within our blood circles here. So the conjure film genre is our films dealing with how we preserve our tradition. Meaning if a Yoruba person from Nigeria was a Babalawo and they said, hey, I have a film about the Orisha tradition in Nigeria, that film would not be allowed in our film festival. They already have film festivals for that. This is for the traditions that we preserve as Black people in North America for hundreds of years after we were forced into North America from Afuraitkait. We maintained our traditions just like they did in Cuba and Haiti and Brazil and everywhere else. We maintained our traditions as well. So we are finishing up our second documentary film, Hoodoo, Akan Ancestral Religion in North America. That's going to premiere at the film festival, but we also have other independent filmmakers. This is our first film, Amaruka, African American Ancestral Divination, that we won an award for, as a matter of fact. But tickets are available now. They are on sale now via our website, Conche Films. We have a limited number of seats. It will be at the Arc Theater. It's a 365 seat theater. We've sold a number of tickets already, but it's a finite number of seats. So get your tickets today. It's an all-day event. A number of films will be showcased. We will also have vendors, including a vegan food vendor and so forth. So get your tickets for that. We look forward to connecting with you on that weekend. It's November 26th. That happens to be the quote-unquote Thanksgiving weekend. It's that Saturday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So many people will be home from school or off of work and so forth, while other people are involved in the nonsense of Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that foolishness. We'll have our film festival where people can get some real information, real culture, and so forth. So that is coming up. You can go right now to our site to get tickets for that. Yes, and the final question, will these recorded videos be available for review? So yes, if you go to our YouTube page, and let's just go to it real quick. The videos from the first 2 nights are already up. This is our YouTube page, oh-jee. So as you can see, day 1, it was 1 hour and 48 minutes. Day 2 was 1 hour and 30 minutes. We're at a little bit over 1 hour and 30 minutes right now. So we will have that up by tomorrow. Around tomorrow morning, we'll have day 3 up, and we'll send out notifications for that. If you're not on an email list, just email us and we will put you on the list so you can receive these notifications. But yes, each day that we have the the discussion, then we'll post that afterwards. One other piece that we didn't mention, every year in February, we have our Happy Merit retreat on Edisto Island, one of the Gullah Sea Islands of South Carolina. So it's a training, cultural, and ritual retreat dealing with nation building and so forth. That information is on the website. So when you click on the page, you will see the flyer for Happy Merit. So we go to the Gullah Islands for spiritual renewal, but also for nation building, workshops, all kinds of things. Of course, vegan food is part of that process. So all of the detailed information of what goes on at the retreat is there. Includes the prerequisites, including you have to have, taken certain classes within our online institution. Just our different festivals and conferences throughout the year are open to Afuraitkait people in general. Just people being introduced to different things. So the Aakhuamuman Festival, the Echisign Conference, the oh-jee Conference, different presentations we do throughout the year, the Kanche Film Festival. As long as you're Black, you can come to our event. The Happy Merit Retreat is a training, cultural, and ritual retreat for people who are already focused, have already been studying certain principal works, and are ready to put these things into practice. So you have to already be, have completed those prerequisites. So there are certain classes that we mentioned, and it's right here in the flyer. So, hold on a second. The prerequisites: attendees of Happy Merit must have completed the following 3 of our online courses: Kukutuntum Maranechi Uben Shang. And all of our courses are archived and they're available online, so you can access them at any time. This is our, institution page, and you will see the flyers for all 34 of our online courses. The 6-week courses are $15 for the 6-week course. The 4-week courses are $10, and you'll see all the details there. So, and the 3 courses we mentioned, Maranechi, Kukutuntum, and Uben Shang, those are the prerequisites. Once you have taken those, then you'll be you'll be acculturated basically to what we will be dealing with at the retreat. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead and let you go now. We will be back on tomorrow night, 9 p.m. You can let other individuals know if they're new to this information, or if they've been involved before and didn't realize that we've been going live every night. This is the first time we decided to do something live every single night. Normally, we would have a communal event on the Memenada, the Saturday of the 7-day piece for people to come out from different parts of the country and so forth. But then every day of the week, we meet with our families and people connected to us. We go to the shrine and we do what we do. This is the first time we decided, after going to the shrine at sunset, we do that. And then this is why we had it at 9 p.m. We give people enough time to go to their shrines and so forth, wherever you are in the country. And then by the time you're done with that, then at 9 p.m., then we decided to have something virtual to kind of touch on what we will be focusing on each day. This is the first time we've done a 7-day virtual aspect of the holiday. Next year, we'll have a book on the holiday. We'll, have some more detailed information, and we'll have a larger event here in DC like we've had before, for you to come out and participate in. So, okay, so once again, Yeda say we thank everybody for tuning in, and Yebesha Bio, we will meet again. That's all.